Okay, I'd like to read you the chapter 19 of the Gospel of St. Luke, the Douay-Rheims Catholic translation. Zacchaeus, or Zacchaeus, I think it's Zacchaeus, entertains Christ. The parable of the pounds. Christ rides upon an ass and weeps over Jerusalem. And entering, and he walked through Jericho. And behold, there was a man named Zacchaeus, who was the chief of the publicans, and he was rich. And he sought to see Jesus, who he was. And he could not for the crowd, because he was low of stature. And running before, he climbed up into a sycamore tree, that he might see him, for he was to pass that way. And when Jesus was come to the place, looking up, he saw him, and said to him, Zacchaeus, make haste and come down, for this day I must abide in thy house. And he made haste, and came down, and received him with joy. And when all saw it, they murmured, saying that he was gone to be a guest with a man that was a sinner. But Zacchaeus, standing, said to the Lord, Behold, Lord, the half of my goods I give to the poor, and if I have wronged any man of anything, I restore him fourfold. Jesus said to him, This day is salvation come to this house, because he also is a son of Abraham. For the Son of Man is come to seek and to save that which was lost. As they were hearing these things, he added and spoke a parable, because he was nigh to Jerusalem, and because they thought that the kingdom of God should immediately be manifested. He said, therefore, a certain nobleman went into a far country to receive for himself a kingdom and to return. And calling his 10 servants, he gave them 10 pounds, and said to them, Trade till I come. But his citizens hated him, and they sent an embassage after him, saying, We will not have this man to reign over us. And it came to pass that he returned, having received the kingdom, and he commanded his servants to be called to whom he had given the money, and he might know how much every man had gained by trading. And the first came, saying, Lord, thy pound hath gained 10 pounds. And he said to him, Well done, thou good servant, because thou hast been faithful in a little, thou shalt have power over 10 cities. And the second came, saying, Lord, thy pound hath gained 5 pounds. And he said to him, Be thou also over 5 cities. And another came, saying, Lord, behold, here is thy pound, which I have kept laid up in a napkin. For I feared thee, because thou art an austere man. Thou takest up what thou didst not lay down, and thou reapest that which thou didst not sow. He said to him, Out of thy own mouth I judge thee, thou wicked servant. Thou knewest that I was an austere man, taking up what I laid not down, and reaping that which I did not sow. And why then didst thou not give my money into the bank, that at my coming I might have exacted it with usury? And he said to them that stood by, Take the pound away from him, and give it to him that hath 10 pounds. And they said to him, Lord, he hath 10 pounds. And I say to you, that to every one that hath shall be given, and he shall abound. And from him that hath not, even that which he hath shall be taken from him. But as for those my enemies who would not have me reign over them, bring them hither, and kill them before me. And having said these things, he went before, going up to Jerusalem. And it came to pass, when he was come nigh to Bethphage and Bethania, unto the mount called Olivet, he sent 2 of his disciples, saying, "Go into the town which is over against you, at your entering into which you shall find the colt of an ass tied, on which no man ever hath sitten. Loose him, and bring him hither. And if any man shall ask you, Why do you loose him? You shall say thus unto him, Because the Lord hath need of his service. And they that were sent went their way, and found the colt standing, as he had said unto them. And as they were loosing the colt, the owners thereof said to them, Why loose you the colt? But they said, Because the Lord hath need of him. And they brought him to Jesus, and casting their garments on the colt, they set Jesus thereon. And as he went, they spread their clothes underneath in the way. And when he was now coming near the descent of Mount Olivet, the whole multitude of his disciples began with joy to praise God with a loud voice for all the mighty works they had seen, saying, Blessed be the King who cometh in the name of the Lord, peace in heaven and glory on high. And some of the Pharisees from amongst the multitude said to him, Master, rebuke thy disciples. To whom he said, I say to you, that if these shall hold their peace, the stones will cry out. And when he drew near, seeing the city, he wept over it, saying, If thou also hadst known, and that in this thy day, the things that are to thy peace, but now they are hidden from thy eyes. For the day shall come upon thee, and thy enemies shall cast a trench about thee, and compass thee round, and straiten thee on every side, and beat thee flat to the ground. And thy children who are in thee, and they shall not leave in thee a stone upon a stone, because thou hast not known the time of thy visitation. And entering into the temple, he began to cast out them that sold therein, and them that bought, saying to them, It is written, My house is the house of prayer, but you have made it a den of thieves. And he was teaching daily in the temple, and the chief priests and the scribes and the rulers of the people sought to destroy him. And they found not what to do to him, for all the people were very attentive to hear him. Okay, another great chapter, chapter 19. So Zacchaeus is this, I believe he was a tax collector. A publican, I believe, which was in the last video, I mentioned a publican. I think he was it's a tax collector. And people hated tax collectors. And I completely understand why. Because who wants to pay taxes, right? To government. And that's what they were doing. There were taxes even then, 2,000 years ago. But Jesus called this guy Zacchaeus. He climbed into the tree there. If you see it in the picture here, this icon. And you can see he climbed into the tree to see Jesus. He was curious. And then Jesus called him and said, I'm going to come to your house, to eat. And then Zacchaeus repented. And he said that anybody he wronged, he would give 4 times the amount. Right, and he would stop it. Because a lot of tax collectors were crooked. They would collect extra taxes. Give the Romans what was due them and then keep the difference. But that wasn't good for the people because the people were paying extra money. So it was a bad situation for the poor people who had to pay all the taxes. Anyway, so Zacchaeus repents. Then he tells this parable about this guy who's really, he's a ruler. He's a nobleman, like a local warlord. And he's very harsh. And he goes away and he gives these 3 servants some money. And he tells them to trade with it, to multiply it. Multiply the money. Invest it, multiply it. And the first one does good. He invests it and makes extra money. And the Lord is very pleased. The second one, he invests it and makes some extra money. And the Lord is pleased as well. The third one takes the money and hides it. And doesn't use it. And just gives it back to him. And then the Lord gets very angry. And says, give, the money I gave to you, I'm going to give it to the first guy who invested and did very well. The one that, got the most return. I think it was £10. And he was very displeased with this guy. And I think the whole point of that parable, because Jesus says, to those who have will be given more, and to those who have not, even less, they'll have even less. It'll be taken away from them. I think it's the idea that we have to use the resources and the talents that we have, right? If you are good at something, you have to use these talents. And if you have an abundance of physical things, you should share, right? And then God will multiply what you have. That's what it says, from what I'm gathering. That if you give out, God will give you even more. You will multiply what you have. So use the resources that you have. This, Jesus is not talking about, investing in the stock market. He's talking about using resources, whether they're talents within us. Maybe you're a good listener. Maybe you know how to console people. Maybe you know how to build things, whatever. Or you have extra money, you have extra wealth, and you can, help other people. You have extra food, whatever the case may be. You're a farmer, you have an abundance. But if you share and use, and multiply what you have by sharing, I think the upshot here is also that what you use, God will multiply. But when you hoard and are stingy and don't want to give at all, it's going to be taken away from you. Okay, it's going to be that amount's going to be taken away from you. And a lot of people are very frightened right now with money, so it's a good time to realize that we shouldn't cling so hard that we don't use what we have to. If we have to use money to pay bills or whatever, we have to do it and trust God to help us find a way to get the more money we need in the future. Anyway, then he goes and talks about, when he comes into Jerusalem, and he comes into Jerusalem on an ass, a donkey, a humble creature. And Jesus said, you'll find the donkey here, go get it. And tell the owners the Lord has need of it. And they did, and he came in. And people were putting palm branches, right, Palm Sunday. And people were shouting his name because of all the things he did. They knew his reputation of healing and teaching. And the leaders were jealous of Jesus because he was a threat to their authority and their money and their power and their status. And they chastised Jesus and said, look, tell your disciples to be quiet. Look at all the noise they're making. And he said, if I told them to be quiet, the stones would cry out. Because you see, they knew in their hearts this was someone special. This was the Son of God. This was the waited Messiah. So it doesn't matter if I make them shut up. The stones will cry out because the earth itself recognizes me. That's what I think that means. And then he talks about, he prophesies the destruction of Jerusalem, and that did happen in, I think it was 72, 73 AD, when the temple that was there, which Jesus had visited himself, was destroyed. And Jesus said, not once, your enemies will surround you, build a trench around you. This was common warfare practice back then. And not one stone will be left upon another. And that is what happened. They destroyed the temple. The Wailing Wall, by the way, let me just correct this misconception. The Wailing Wall in Jerusalem today is not part of the old temple. I know that people say this. It's not. It's from a Roman fort, Fort Antonia. The original temple, not one stone was left upon another. So there's no large remains of it. I'm not even sure what's left of it, to be honest. I just know that Wailing Wall that they charge people to go to and put their little paper in there, which Christians really, there's no reason to go there and do that, has nothing to do with the old temple. But it makes a good story, and it makes, for charging people to go there and, the tourists, right, to go pray in front of it as if it, it is a ruin. It's a Roman ruin, but it was a military installation, not a temple. And if you look at it, it doesn't look like, an ancient temple. It just doesn't have that design. To me, it looks like a military installation, and that's what it is. Anyway, and Jesus prophesied that the temple would be destroyed, and it was, because Jesus would not lie, could not lie, and does not lie. So when he said one stone will not be left upon another, he meant it. So that Wailing Wall cannot be what they say it is. It's impossible, because Jesus is not a liar. Anyway, and then Jesus was upset in the temple, seeing people, ripping other people off, buying and selling things that, for extra money. And Jesus said, "My house is a house of prayer. You've made it a den of thieves," right? And, he was teaching there, and the chief priests, they were jealous of him, and they sought to destroy him. And, of course, we know they have him crucified. Okay, hope you enjoyed that. Take care.